Okay, guys, so welcome everyone. Welcome, beloved ones. I'm so happy to be with all of you here. And I just want to give a brief introduction before we start the webinar. Those webinars are created and produced by the Weekly Fasting Group, which is a big international online community operating on WhatsApp. And the common denominator of this community is that we fast once a week. We abstain once a week from food for at least for 24 hours. And there are lots of people coming because of different reasons there. Some people come because of health reasons, other people come because of spiritual reasons, still other people just want to improve their self-discipline, whatever. It's really open. It does not require any particular dietary lifestyle, spiritual lifestyle. So we are just here to learn from everyone, to share our experiences in a very open-minded way. And every Friday, we try to invite an influential speaker for the webinar in the fields of, nutrition, lifestyle, spirituality, and other interesting subjects. So if those ideas appeal to you and you are watching this video later on, you will find my WhatsApp number below the video. My name is Arik. I am the moderator of this group. You are welcome to send me a WhatsApp message with your name. I'll add you to the group, and then you will be able to access all those webinars and weekly fast, and it's all for free. Okay, so that was my brief introduction. Now, Alva, over to you. From now on, it's your show.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Eric. Well, today I'm honored to introduce my beautiful friend, Sabina Kurz. She is a lifestyle empowerment coach. She is a detoxification specialist. She is a sacred warrior and wisdom keeper and helps you do shadow work. She has a 3-month mentoring program that helps you unleash your greatness in many ways. She's been living the raw vegan natural lifestyle for 25 plus years. Her own body brought her to this journey, which I will let her tell you about. But she's just a remarkable loving light on the planet. She believes that at our core, everything is love and everything can be dissolved and healed with love. And she is a beautiful guide and support and beautiful resource for actually embodying that, first finding it within ourselves and then rippling it out to our world. And once we get the temple clean, then everything else seems to work itself out. So Sabina, over to you. Thank you so much for joining us, and just take it away. Tell us whatever you want us to know about the art of detox and empowered living, and then we'll have a question and answer portion.
Thank you so much, Alva, for such beautiful introduction. And it's always such an honor to be in your presence. And welcome everyone for being here, wherever you, from which place of the planet you're beaming in. But it's such an honor to be here. And thank you, Arik, for providing the space and this group that we can all, come together and share golden nuggets of wisdom. So yes, my name is Sabina, and well, my journey goes back actually to childhood. I grew up in southern Germany on a standard German diet, which is mostly bread, butter, meat, sausages, potatoes, and that was kind of the diet I grew up with. And I was always sick as a child. Every month I had the flu, I had bronchitis, I had earaches. I was always congested. I actually had to walk around with a tissue box everywhere I go. And at night I had to sleep with open mouth because I couldn't breathe. My nose was always congested. So that was one of the obstacles of my childhood, not being able to breathe properly, and also severe constipation. I would go to the bathroom every 3rd day, and even I was very skinny. I was always bloated and had this big belly. So when I was 19 years old, one thing I want to mention, as a child, I always knew because my mom used to take me to doctors who gave me pills and syrups and all kinds of stuff. And it never really worked. Either nothing got improved, or it was just temporary. In the next month, I would get the cold again. But I always knew deep down inside, there must be another way. It just wasn't in my field, because everyone around me was eating the exact same diet. There was just no other option. But somehow I knew there must be a way. So when I was 19, I actually moved to Munich by myself, because I was sick and tired of being sick and tired. And I knew I had to be in a different environment and to start from zero, do something entirely different. And that was a long time ago, way before the internet. So we don't even know, now we can get all the information just typing it in. But at that time, I didn't have that choice. And I didn't know anyone who is offering something. And I didn't have any money to hire a coach or anything. So I would go to bookstores, and I would just go into the health and the self-help section and look. And I came across one book that was actually on the raw food diet. And somehow this book called me, and I bought it and I read it just within a few days. I actually absorbed it, and it so resonated to me. It just made sense. I don't know, everything, just those pieces that I kind of felt naturally. So I felt called to that. So I just went from a standard German diet on just eating fruits and vegetables only. And within a short time, I realized the difference. Somehow my nose cleared up, my energy level was rising, and all these things that I had before, everything got improved and got better. I just noticed the difference within a month. It was really intense. And I knew at that moment, this is the way. So that was just the first part, that I realized I can actually heal myself. I don't need to go to some doctor who's giving me some pill. There's a different way. And just by changing the diet, that alone made a huge difference in my life. And then from then on, I went even deeper. A few years later, I actually came across a book of water fasting. So I went deep. I went straight to do a 10-day water fasting. And then that time I was living in New York City. So I lived in this little apartment in Manhattan. And I decided to go even deeper and go on a silent retreat. So I was 10 days in my apartment. I hardly went anywhere. I just stayed by myself. And I just fasted and I was silent. And that was a huge game changer. Like, for the first time in my real life, I realized I actually have so much power. There's so much wisdom, and I had so much creativity and ideas, and things were just coming up from within. And then I realized, I can be, but the first few days were really hard, the first 5 days. But then when I went past day 5, I suddenly got these, surges of inspiration, downloads of insights, just like this inner power and bliss that was just coming out of nowhere. And this was my first connection to the divine or God, whatever you want to call it, but to this higher power. And knowing this is actually within me, and I can create it from within. And I don't need to take anything. I don't need anything from outside to give me that power and that bliss and that joy. It is actually a natural thing that is, our birthright. We have just been so, conditioned and programmed and, congested with toxicity that it's hard to access. But once I was able to, release all that stuff, just doing a water fast and being silent and realizing I don't need anything, I can just be happy without needing anything from outside. That actually outside stimulation is just an illusion, because true energy and true inspiration, true joy comes from within. So that was another breaking point. So first it was eating fruits and vegetables, which gave me a lot of healing. And then the second, turning point in my life was actually water fasting and being silent. That the combination is actually really powerful. It's just getting out of that chatter that we also have. Our mind constantly goes and goes and goes, and it's like one thought latches to another thought, and we're in this loop, and all day we're looping in our thoughts. And that is actually takes you out of the present moment. And by being still and centered and also emptying yourself, you know, with all the stimulation from food and substances, that actually you get to this place of empty presence. And in such a space, you become a vessel. So things can flow through you, and actually truth will speak through you, because the insight, the wisdom is all accessible. And you actually, once you learn to be quiet and still, it will come up here. So that was my moment of true finding my power. And then from then, you know, I kept going deeper and deeper. And just along the way, I studied so many different modalities, you know, shamanic healing, energy healing, meditation, yoga, herbalism, so many different sound healing, so many different tools. But I've been since then like a student of life, you know, continuously going deeper. And even, you know, I started at a young age, I still kept showing up certain health challenges, because I realized this is not something you just quickly do. It's not a quick fix, and it's not an overnight process. It can take years and years of abuse we all done to ourselves by eating the wrong food, thinking the wrong thoughts, being in the wrong relationships, in the wrong jobs, in the wrong environment. So all that stuff is actually toxicity. It's not just only, you know, the toxic food and substances we eat, it's all the other stuff, emotional toxicity, mental toxicity, limiting beliefs. And we all have so much programming and so much conditioning that it takes time to unlearn all of that and to release all of that. So to make a long story short, I just kept looking. I got actually obsessed with natural healing. I just wanted to know everything. I wanted to, you know, become a master. So I studied with many different healers and teachers and masters in the form of nutrition, healing, personal development, transformation, everything that, you know, I've got really obsessed with just becoming more, expanding more, living the fullness of life, really. I mean, that's what at the center is. We want to live all we are, but we can't if we have all that stuff in the space. There's so much obstruction that we're holding, and that blocks us from living fully and living truly who we are. So this is more than anything a journey of letting go, of releasing, of learning to unlearn all that we learned. And that was for me like a long journey. Even I started at 19, because another crucial point in my life that was very pivotal happened in 2017. I was in a relationship where six years of sacred partnership, sacred marriage, we called it. And one day we had an argument, and my partner walked away, and I've never seen him again. That was January 2017. And I was heartbroken. You know, I studied 20 years for personal development. We actually did it together. He was a communication coach. And we have an argument, and he leaves. And he just leaves me by myself. And I was in such a state that I realized all my training really, you know, didn't help in that moment. I was so heartbroken. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't eat. I couldn't take care of my child. And that got me even deeper. And that really got me to the shamanic path and the shadow work. Because one day I was so low and so on my knees outside praying for a miracle. And in that moment, somehow the image of a man came up that I met many years ago, organizing a workshop for him. And I reached out to this man. He was a shamanic healer, but he doesn't work with medicine. So not ayahuasca, anything like that. He works with the medicine of, actually the medicine we have within. And the most important teaching he gave me, he said, because I told him I have so much pain, heart pain, I need help. Can you help me, please? And he said, Sabina, your medicine is in your pain. No one can help you. You can help yourself. So I went with him on this deep journey, like really looking at all my pain, and then going to the source. Where does the pain come from? So I went on a deep 10 months journey of at night, sitting outside in the forest, sitting with my pain, feeling my pain, and letting the pain express itself through sound and movement. That means I was shaking it out, screaming it out, dancing it out, like whatever form I can use to release my pain. And it's actually not just releasing the pain, it's about transmuting the pain, because that is spiritual alchemy. It's about taking the darkness and transmuting it into the light. So that means being with the pain, feeling it, and being able to look, where's the pain come from? Bring all that into the light and be with it. And that is painful, but by being with that pain actually starts dissolving when you hold it in a space of love. And that is true alchemy. Now, so I went to this really deep process of 10 months of spiritual alchemy in the forest in upstate New York. That was 2017. And from that, I actually noticed within a short time, the pain got less and less and less. And my first night, I was out in the forest 2 hours sitting with the pain. It took 2 hours to transmute it, because another piece is, it's not just, releasing it or dumping the pain. It's about transmuting it into joy, because pain and joy are related. They come from the same source. So we want to ideally not just wallow in our pain. That's not the idea. It's not about wallowing. It's about sitting it, feeling it, holding it with love, and then transmuting it into joy. And it took me in the first night 2 hours to get to the joy paradigm, where I was actually suddenly feeling the lightness coming through me. And then this shaman I worked with, he instructed me to dance. When I feel the pain, the joy, you want to celebrate the joy, because that is a celebration, moving from pain to joy. And then I was celebrating by dancing in the forest at night and singing and dancing and just celebrating that. And over time, I noticed I got happier and happier, and the pain got less and less, to the point after 10 months, I was thinking about my ex who left, and there was no more charge. There was nothing, no more pain, no more, longing or not even regrets. It was just neutral. So I learned to transmute that pain with these tools. And then what happened? I was meeting all these women. Wherever I went, I was meeting women. They were left by their partners or abused by their partners, or they were in very dysfunctional relationships. And I actually could see their pain. We got in this conversation. So I ended up every night, I was on the phone with some woman who was in this challenging situation, and I would support her working through her pain. And that ended up to this point, I realized I can open up a business and support women in pain, transmuting from their pain, get into their power. And one lady, she had such amazing transformation that she left her relationship, she left her job, she left her home, started a completely new life, living her dream life. And then I realized, wow, what a testimonial. I can open up a business. So that was my first idea. I said I should open up a coaching business. So that's where it started. First, I was helping women transmuting their pain. And then over time, 2018, I started to build a business working with women. And then my idea was actually had this vision. I want to go on some magical place and take people there, because certain places energetically are a medicine already. So in one of my meditations, the Sacred Valley of Peru came up. And the next day I just booked a ticket. So I have to go there to see for myself. So I traveled to Peru, and all the pieces just came together. I met someone who knows someone who has a retreat center, and I was invited there. And I stayed there, and I met this woman. We already found some really deep connection. We decided to create a retreat. So long story short, I had a retreat scheduled in April 2020 in the Sacred Valley of Peru. And then I had 10 people already sign up. And we all know what happened in March 2020. So sadly, the retreat never happened. And that was, I poured 1 year of my life into just building that and creating the courses, attracting the other it was a combination of others as well, a yoga teacher, 2 shamans, a sound healer, and there was a sweat lodge. There was all kinds of different people participating. So just putting that together was like a huge deal, and just getting to that point. So that big dream I had broke apart. And I was devastated in March 2020 because, and I had another retreat scheduled in Costa Rica in the December 2020, already in planning. So of course that didn't happen either. And then as I was at this low point, I realized I have to go online, which I hated. But that's when I started putting myself out on Facebook. And a lot of resistance going out there, but I would still continue do it. And then I would just put all these elements together, you know, the nutrition, raw food nutrition, and fasting, and the healing path through spiritual alchemy and shadow work. And that's really how I started going out there. And then I opened up a fasting group in 2020, where I would guide people through a either 3-day juice cleanse or a water fast. And that was online on a monthly basis. So since then, there have been like, you know, more than 100 people already participated from all over the world, 5 different continents, and I don't know, 30 different countries. But that has been a great experience. And then starting to work with people also one-on-one, like in the 3 months program, really supporting them in their transformation. And actually most people came to me for weight loss or some kind of health issue. And then it started, as we go deep, we all realize there's all this childhood trauma and these unresolved emotional issues. So it's really addressing not just losing the weight or doing the fast. It has so many different elements to it. So the deeper I started working with people, I realized, you know, all these different components that actually go together in order to, so we can be truly free and can live fully. So it's not just the fasting, the raw food diet, there's much more to it. But what happens when you go into fast or even just cleaning up the diet, those layers will come up. Because whatever, you know, has to, in order to get it out, it has to come up first. There's just no other way, you know. So that's how my program actually started developing. So it goes back really to like 30 years of being on that path and learning. I made so many mistakes along the way. I did so many stupid things I would never recommend anyone to do. But from all this experience and all these mistakes, I learned what really works, what is most effective, what doesn't work, you know, what are the pitfalls. There's so many different, there's so much information out there and a lot of false information, a lot of lies, and you can easily get misled, yeah, which I was too. You know, I studied with people that taught me something that's really not health, but it's under the umbrella of health. There's a lot of information out there that actually slows down this journey. So over time, I was just refining, you know, taking all the golden nuggets and putting them all together in one container. And at the foundation is truly love, you know, it's because you cannot do any healing unless you learn to fully love yourself. And most people have no clue what it means to love yourself. And I certainly didn't, because I was even asked many years ago, do you love yourself? And I said, yeah, of course I love myself. But then I was in certain courses, had to do certain exercises. I became aware I don't even know how to love myself. What does it really entail? So this is would be another course just by itself, how to learn to love yourself, you know? And because we all constantly do things that are self-destructive without knowing it. Yes, so it's a love container, and I call it liberation into love, because in order to be free, we have to first love ourselves, and that's the only way we can show up authentic and releasing all that is blocking us from really being authentic. So authenticity is another really, really important part, because in order to be whole, we have to show up authentic. And only when we show up authentic can we really, truly, you know, own who we are, and can we show up in our power. So it's the journey to love. So that was a long introduction.
It was beautiful. It was perfect. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. And thank you for your transparency, your vulnerability, and your honesty. You know, sometimes I actually really love that you took us from the start, you know, to now, because oftentimes on this journey, one, we tell the story that we're alone, or we listen to the monkey mind say, you know, like all of the critic stuff that it says about us, or we see somebody's outsides and results and assume that it was like one juice fast or whatever, you know, because sometimes that's how it comes across. But you took us through your childhood to now, and then, you know, like just all of it. And so that helps me, who's been on this journey with you for a while, because I was like, I want what they have. And I don't know, I was kind of foolishly thinking I'd have it in like 30 days or something like that. And now, you know, 3 years in, but really this last almost year of super concentrated focus can see like, oh, okay, okay, okay. And I realize, and now I have no need to compare. There was any reason to compare, but it just, I don't know. I just think what you just shared with us, that in of itself is very empowering. It's inspiring and empowering, and it connects us, right? We all are wherever we are on our journey. So before I throw it out to the group for questions, if you guys don't mind, I'm going to go ahead and share the questions that a couple of people who weren't able to make it today sent. And just give me one moment. The first one is, Sabina, due to social pressures and looking skinny, you know how like people, it calls for a lot of unwanted attention. So she wanted to know like what your views are on maintaining or increasing weight during the detox process. And this is from Smrita. If I mispronounced your name, Smrita, please forgive me.
Well, first of all, when we detox, it's very natural to lose weight. And, you know, from my experience, like I always gained back a little bit the weight, but I'm definitely slimmer than when I started this journey. Because what happens, the body gets rid of fat and obstructions, and it's just part of it that we become skinnier. But you don't have to be like emaciated. You know, you can eat like healthy. If you feel you need more fat, you can eat healthy fats such as avocados and coconuts. I don't really recommend oils. So get your fat from natural sources. But I noticed over time, at some point, I was extremely skinny to the point that I looked emaciated. But then it's just the body was the same thing with the hair. I lost a lot of hair, and it was very scary. So I noticed my body got rid of a lot of stuff, and I looked extremely not healthy at some point. It was like a few years ago, extremely skinny, and my hair got very thin, and then actually kept coming back. I noticed some fat came back. My hair started growing back, actually fuller than before. So sometimes it's just necessary. We go through phases where we might not look so good. That's the so-called detox look. But also it's important to work on your body. It's not just the detox thing. Like every day I go running, I do yoga every day, I jump on the trampoline, I work out, I do what I can, and that helped a lot. So it's another part of it, to get moving and get, build some muscle, because we need some muscle. So if you feel you're too skinny, then I would just do some workout and, create some, tone your body. Like trampoline, for example, is a really great exercise, not exercise, it's actually also fun, because what it does, it stimulates your lymphatic system, so it supports digestion and movement body. It actually detoxifies you, and it tones your muscles. So it's a great way to actually work on yourself. But I wouldn't be so concerned if you go through a detox phase. There will be phases, but there is a way to work on your body. Do things that you enjoy, so you can actually build some muscle. And I even started to do a little bit of weightlifting, but just gently, because I noticed my arms got too skinny, so I'm doing a little weights every morning, like this and that. And yoga. I mean, my legs are really good from doing yoga every day. That's what I recommend. Yoga, trampoline, and if you feel like gentle weights also, or whatever calls you. It's important that you enjoy it and it's not like a burden, because we often approach things we have to. But I want you to think of what would excite you, what do you like? There are certain things, like sometimes the winter, I love going running. It's amazing. It's so cold and you breathe in the fresh air. And I feel immediately energized just from that. That's something I love doing in the winter, but not in the summer. So it's about finding something you like and then focus on that. And also a big part is actually loving yourself. If you look in the mirror and you think, oh my God, I look horrible, that's not a way to approach it. That is actually toxicity. It's just the fact, hating your body, not liking the way you look. You're putting yourself emotional toxicity in your body, which is completely contrary of what you're actually trying to achieve, detoxifying. And actually, I like the approach, looking at it from a place of you purifying yourselves instead of I'm getting rid of toxicity. It's more like getting rid of toxicity is more like negative, but I'm here to purify my temple. I give it all the love it needs. I'm going through a transition phase because everything is temporary. You're transitioning from an old way of being, an old way of living, and that means the body has to get rid of things. So transitioning out of the old and transitioning into a new way of being, a new way of living, and start loving your body and knowing it's a temporary, and you give love to your body. You can massage it. There's many things you can do if you don't like certain parts of your body. Like, for example, as a woman, I massage my breasts. Actually, I notice they get firmer just by massaging them. Or you can go under ice cold water. That's an amazing thing to tighten your skin. It's actually a great beauty. I don't call it secret because it's not a secret. They call it a beauty secret, but that alone, jumping in ice cold water, you can go in the ice cold shower, or you can put ice cubes in a bowl and put your face in it. It's the best face mask. You will actually look radiant afterwards. So cold is an amazing thing for your skin. It tightens your skin, makes it more radiant. So I would just approach different things to start loving your body and purifying it and loving it instead of looking at, I'm too skinny, I'm in a detoxing. Always bring a beautiful, an aspect of beauty to it. That's why this whole thing is an act of love. It's an act of beauty. It's a devotion more than, I actually don't even like to use this word healing, because healing implies, something is broken, something is damaged, and we have to fix it. But rather, it's a return to wholeness. We want to be whole and vibrant. And in order to get that, we have to go through certain phases so we can get back to wholeness, return to our original state, return to who we truly are, which is love and radiance and vibrancy. So it's also how we look at things. It's the perspective, the approach.
Thank you. She says, fruits are supposed to be cleansers. However, with high fructose content, is it okay for the liver to go on a fruit diet? What is your advice for the optimum fruit diet?
Well, the fruits that are actually the most cleansing are the high water content fruits, such as watermelons. They're amazing, or citrus fruit. But they're also very, it's a very intense detox. And it all depends where someone is. If you come from a standard diet and then you go into watermelon cleanse, it's going to be intense on your system. Your body goes into major withdrawal and major detox symptoms. So I actually don't recommend that. And I recommend actually more like a transition diet. And if there's one book I can recommend for that, it's called The Mucus-Free Diet from Arnold Ehret, and talks about the transition diet. There are actually certain things to eat for the transition diet when you go from a standard diet. So it's about really, there's a saying, slow and steady wins the race. You can't just go too extreme. I went extreme, but first of all, I was 19 years old, but not too extreme. I was still eating at beginning, I started to eat fruits and vegetables. And fruits are astringent, they pull out, they pull us, they pull things out. Vegetables are not, they don't have that, they're more grounding, so it's much milder. So if the fruits are too strong, maybe go for the vegetable juices. But it all depends, you know, where you are at this moment, and then taking steps. But I wouldn't go to extreme, immediately go into when you're not used to it. So you go slowly, you go on a transition diet first, then you start just eating fruits and vegetables, and eventually you get to the fruits. And that's where the most detox takes place, and eventually maybe water fasting. But there's a transition phase. And as I said before, you know, this is not a quick fix. You can't just quickly do this. It takes years and years to really cleanse your body from all the damage that we created. If you've eaten 20, 30, 40, 50 years of, you know, food that creates waste and toxicity in the body, it takes a long time to undo that. It's not just a year, or like doing the 40-day water fast and you're done with it, or the 50-day juice cleanse. No, this is like a total illusion. And people always think that, oh, I did my long cleanse and still have this issue and still have that issue. Yeah, how many years have you abused yourself? What have you been eating for many years? Which thoughts have you been thinking for many years? Which environments have you been living for many years? Which childhood trauma are you still carrying within you that is stored in the body? You know, all that has to be looked at. So there is no such thing as a one-size-fits-all formula. It's not like that, you know, and it's an individual journey. Everyone is going through different symptoms, through different phases. There will be layers and layers of layers coming up. I actually recently had another layer coming up. It's like, I thought I worked through that. For many years, I experienced some childhood trauma when I was 10 years old, and I worked through that. And recently, last month, it actually came up again in a different way. And I was like, oh my God, that is actually still there. There's still some residue, because healing happens in layers. You know, at some point we can access certain, and then it goes deeper and deeper, and there will be another layer. So, you know, it's a journey, and it requires patience. It requires consistency, which I say over and over again. You know, the success requires in every area. It doesn't matter if it's just detoxing, in every area. If you want to create success, it requires consistency. Doing something long enough, consistently, with love and with certainty, knowing that it is possible. That is a huge, it's the step to get there. You know, and really honoring where you are. We're all different. There's no comparing to others. This is actually another toxic thing. Oh, she did that. Why I can't do this? Why is she further than me? You know, it's like all people compare themselves to others when you don't know where they came from, because you have a different baggage. I call it we carry baggage. It's all the stuff. And over time, we get rid of baggage and life becomes lighter. But we all have different baggages, whether it's the obstructions in the body, whether it's emotional baggages, whether it's, you know, resentment towards other people we still carry. We don't even know, but life feels heavy because we carry the stuff. So it's about loosening the luggage over time. And that takes time. So the journey becomes lighter the more you loosen up.
I love that. I love that analogy. I'll tell you all a story about that later. Speak to, if you will, just a little bit about oftentimes when people do have a high fruit diet or consume a lot of fruit, there's concern about the sugar damaging the body. Specifically, their question was about the liver. But can you speak to that? Because they're thinking it's high fructose, but that's very different than some artificial chemical and how that impacts the body's. Like it's a little bit of like, you know, people think, oh, fruit is dangerous, that's how you get diabetes, that type of thing. Can you speak to that just a little bit?
Yes, first of all, this is a big program that is running in the field. Fruit is dangerous, stay away from sugar. But there's a difference, you know, the sugar in fruit is a simple sugar. And it's actually the fuel that the body needs, that actually gives you the energy. It's very different than a sugar, let's say in like a white sugar. That is, it's a complex sugar and it takes a long time to break it down. It's a stimulation. White sugar is a stimulation. It's like cocaine almost. It gives you this high and then you want more and more. And you can't, it's very hard to get rid of it. So the regular sugar is complex, it's a stimulant and highly addictive. But the sugar in fruit is our fuel. That's what gives you the energy. That's what gets you going. And it actually gives you also happiness and joy, and it's not addictive, and it's very easy for the body. So it's a very different kind of sugar, but they, the way they tell you it's sugar, it's not all sugar is the same, first of all. And then also it's realizing, where you came from. If you are on a diet, the standard diet, and then you go to fruit diet, as I said, it's a shock. It feels like it's too much for your body because the body goes into intense detox and it feels like overwhelming to some people. And they say it's the sugar. They blame the sugar. Oh, I ate too much sugar. Sugar is bad for me. So it's about it. Also the transition, getting to a high fruit diet. It takes some time for your body to actually be able to handle that, because it is like it's in high energy, gives you high energy. Also, it's a different vibration, and it's hard for someone who's not used to it. And the white sugar is just too stimulating. It has this very addictive quality. So we want to, determine that it's like completely different. We can't compare this. It's really realizing. And the simple sugar is extremely healing. It's really it brings you the joy.
Perfect. Thank you. And when someone is transitioning, I just want to throw out there, it's a beautiful first meal of the day. First, obviously, I recommend drinking your water, but then like you're first breaking your fast from the night before with fruit. And for me, my body does really well on what we call mono meals, like one single fruit. And that's a gentle way to begin adding, increasing your fruit and boosting your temple purification, to quote you. It's a beautiful segment, a beautiful transition, I want to say, into a healthier lifestyle. Okay, I have another question for you from Elaine. She says, how do you recommend dealing with thinning of the teeth enamel, staining, and sensitivity of the teeth during your during the cleansing period, for the purification period?
Yeah, I actually have that issue as well. So what I did, I put 1 drop of clove oil on my tooth brush, and I brush my teeth with essential oil, clove. And another thing I did was charcoal, activated charcoal on the toothbrush, and that also helps. So that was the 2 things that I found. But this is very common. Teeth become sensitive.
Yes. I've had that a little bit with my gums, and I've done oil pulling too, sometimes with coconut oil. I don't know if that's anything that you recommend. I don't do it a lot, but just sometimes I feel guided to do that.
Yeah, actually, at some point in my life, I did that, but now I'm at this, I would say that I don't recommend putting oil in the mouth.
Okay.
Doesn't feel right to me anymore, but that was also in my transition phase. I would do that for many years, actually.
Yeah.
And I got to the point, it does not feel natural to put all that oil in my mouth. Actually, it almost felt like an aversion to oils.
Yeah, like it started to burn the back of my throat. I learned that as I upped my greens, like having lettuces a few times a week, then I haven't experienced any problem with my teeth or gums as well. That was one thing that I learned. And then Ever has a question: do different fruit juices detox different organs?
Well, it first of all depends what fruit juices. I actually recommend, like you said, mono fruit juicing. I find it much, you have to realize, everything is energy. If you have pick one fruit, you're dealing with one energy, which is very easy for the body then to handle. But if you mix 5 different fruits, the body has to deal with 5 different energies. So I always recommend keeping it simple. The simpler, the better. That's what I also found I found it actually the most effective. It gives me the most feeling of well-being and also the most cleanse. So I do mono juicing. And I also don't recommend mixing the fruits and the veggie. The only one that I found actually works with veggies are the apples. So sometimes I do green juices with apple. But in general, I would keep it separate, the fruits and the vegetables. And yeah, it also depends, which stage you are. Like the fruit juices are much more detoxifying than the vegetable juices. And sometimes what happens to people if they go on fruit juices, it's just too much stimulation. And they actually get a little lightheaded, which happened to me also at some point on my journey. I realized I cannot do fruit juices. I have to stay vegetable juices. So I would sometimes do in the morning, I do the fruit juice. And then in the afternoon, I needed something more grounding. I do the vegetable juices.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that. And then someone asked if you would tell us more about, elaborate more on your experiences with silence. Roos, I hope I said your name right. Forgive me if I didn't. Wants to know, can you elaborate a bit more on your experience with silence?
Yes, silence is one of the most powerful tools, I would say, that's out there. And we all know the great yogis did it. They go in a cave in India and they meditated by themselves. And especially, the world we live in, there's constant stimulation. And all day long, we get bombarded, we have our devices. So we're constantly in this overstimulation. And what happens, it takes us out of the present moment because there's always some thought constantly moving. And our power is really being in the present moment. But when so conditioned, all the stimulation, always around people, always something happening, it's going to be very hard to be still and centered. So we have to train ourselves. So that's why I started meditation also, I think 27 years ago, meditation. And for the first time, it was very difficult to actually sit still, and not just sitting still. That was actually a little easier, but also to be still in the mind. That's not just still in the body, that's 2 steps. You got to be able to sit still. That was hard. And then the next thing, be still in the mind. That's even harder because we have this monkey mind who jumps all day long. It's always thoughts, one after the other. And when we get to this place where we actually stop the thinking process, something magical happens. Space is created. You're creating space. And in such a place of space, you can actually access higher realms of information that we can't when this mind is going. So that's one important aspect. You want to create the space. And then higher knowingness steps in. And we can actually become a channel. Things just come through us. And all the wisdom is available to all of us. It's just most people, they cannot access that place of stillness and empty presence where the spaciousness takes place. And then when you're in such a space, actually truth will speak through you. It's not you speak the truth, it speaks through you. Wonder, where did that come from? Ideas get downloaded. Creativity flows to you. It's an amazing process, but we have to create the spaciousness. And also then the goal is, not just in the meditation to experience that, but also take that with you during your day. So you don't continue to react to circumstances. Because what happens, people go out in the world, something happens, they react to whatever happens. They get triggered, whatever happens. And the goal is actually to have the spaciousness. When something happens, you can actually pause and say, okay, how can I respond to this in the most empowered way? From a place of love, from a place of presence, from a place of inner peace. instead of getting angry or getting frustrated because that person said that that situation happened there. You are living at the effect of your circumstances when this happens. But creating the stillness and the spaciousness, you can actually step out of yourself and say, okay, what can I do right now? That comes from a place of understanding, love, and peace. And that takes a skill set. So we want to ideally practice every day being empty and still. So we can be that vessel for spaciousness to arise. And then we can choose how we're going to respond to a situation. And that's where our power comes in, by choosing. And that's when you become a choice in every moment. That's how you become the creator of your reality. Otherwise, you're constantly at the effect. You're living at the effect of life. One day, this person is nice, you feel great, you get a compliment, yay, you're beaming. Then there's some person gives you the finger in the car and you go like, oh, you get all angry. So we live constantly like the weather is bad, we like low energy, the sun is shining, we're good. So you live in an emotional roller coaster, depending what's happening outside of you. You're actually giving all your power away to the outside world, when in fact power is created from within, through your choice, how you show up in every moment of your life. And there's no more powerful tool than practicing meditation and stillness. And this is not just sitting 15 minutes each morning in your pillow and that's you're done with. No, it's about every moment you live in a state of meditation, being fully present, being open, and being a choice.
Thank you. That's beautiful. Yes. I teach meditation, and one of the ways I start people off is just closing one's eyes and being still, sitting or laying, and listening to, focusing on breathing in and breathing out, just noticing the inhale. One thing I would offer is play with the practice, right? Like there's so many ways to find stillness. Sometimes I do it. I love to lay on the earth and close my eyes and feel the sun on my face, and have my feet on the earth and my hands down. That's another beautiful way. There's so many ways to do it. And when you first start, I would say don't freak out, because the mind's going to be like, blah, 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 blah. At least that's how mine is, especially I'm finding when I do extended water fast, like it kind of freaks out. So another way, the reason I bring that up is I just try to witness it, just try to observe, just observe it. Like I either sometimes pretend that there are clouds and I'm the blue sky. There's a beautiful saying, the blue sky never argues with the clouds. Or I pretend that I'm sitting near a stream and I just put all of those thoughts on the leaves that are in the stream and just watch them wash away. And if it's too rowdy, I might say fear. I'll label whatever that one thought is and just watch it go away. And lastly, if sitting is really challenging, I invite people to do what it's called walking meditation. So you just focus on one foot in front of the other, breathing in on, one foot, breathing out, or anything that you see, you might say tree, car, man, woman in the mind. So you give it a task. And as Sabina said, silence and stillness at first begins in a sitting position, but it becomes a way of life, a meditative way of living your life. And yeah, that's what I had to say about that. Got a couple other questions here in the chat for you. One, going back to where you were talking about juicing, mono juicing in one meal. The person says, do you just do it for one meal, or you just do one type of juice for the whole day? And then I don't understand your question about rose like the flower. Are you asking about rose water roots? If you could clarify that. So if you'll talk about mono juicing, and then we've got questions on how you feel about enemas and colonics.
Okay, so regarding the juicing, so I recommend just having one juice. For example, you do let's say a 3-day juice cleanse. You pick watermelon. You have 3 days drinking watermelon juice. That's how it's the deep, you go the deepest. The other option, which would be like 1 day watermelon juice, 1 day orange, and one day green juices. So this is kind of what mono meals are about. Or, you know, the next version would then be for morning watermelon, and for the afternoon, say orange, if you do 2 juices. But ideally, that's the way I do it. I do 3 days, just 3 days of watermelon. That's how I feel I get the most benefit out of it, staying with one.
Okay, thank you.
But I always say
question,
the best you can under your circumstances. Sometimes you might not find enough watermelon, then do the best you can. You know, we never want to go in this extremism. I have to do it this way. This is the only way. And that's how I was many years. I was very extreme. And at some point I realized you become very, in your mind, you become very hardened because that's the way to do it. If I don't do it right, then, you know, we start beating ourselves up. So as I said before, this is a love journey. So I want you to love yourself in this process and also tune in, you know, what feels right for me at this time. What is really in alignment with myself, and honor that. Because at the end, it's really about learning to listen to your body, because your body truly knows. No one else can tell you what is best for you. So at the end, it's about learning to intuitively eating. That's called intuitive eating. Tuning within. What do I need right now? What is in alignment? What is serving me best right now? And that can change over time. It's not, you know, this is like, that's the formula. We all change over time. It changes with age. It changes with the environment. It changes with the season. It changes where you are emotionally. So really learning to tune in what works for you.
Thank you for that. Thank you. And so I'll just put a plug in here for you that monthly Sabina hosts a 3-day detox, if you will, where it can be, like she said, it can be mono juicing or water fasting. And then she holds a Zoom call daily during that 3-day period for, is it 45 minutes to like an hour, where she makes herself available on a donation basis to answer any questions you might have. And I pretty much join those almost every month. And it's great support for me to stay focused. I'm sorry, my neighbor's getting her yard done for the background noise. But it's very, very supportive. It's a wonderful container, as well as monthly she holds a fasting integration call. And that's so like we get together on a Saturday typically, and we talk about how our fast was or any questions that might have come up that didn't come up on during the daily call. So that's in her Facebook group. I hope you guys can hear me, called The Art of Detoxification and Empowered Living. And we'll give you links to everything after the call. Okay, our next question, and it was Rose, not Ruth. Thank you so much for correcting me, was about enemas and colonics. And then I've got a couple more questions as well.
Yes, so that's a good question, because I've been exploring that also for many years. I think I started doing enemas in 1996, which is a long time. I heard about it. I said, let's just explore it. And at the beginning, I had a lot of resistance. I'd say it was very uncomfortable, but I noticed that it really supported me, because sometimes, especially at the beginning of my journey, when I was fasting, I just couldn't go to the bathroom. But what happens when you fast or even juice, you know, toxicity is getting stirred up. It's being loosened up. And the important thing is to get it out, because otherwise it keeps circulating in your bloodstream, which causes uncomfortable emotions. Could be dizziness, could be nausea, could be back pain or pain in certain areas of your body. So I found over the years I've been doing this, that enema is extremely helpful. Whenever I've had these feelings of just weakness, sometimes I would lie in bed and feel dizzy and nauseous, and then I would do an enema and it would clear up instantly. I would just feel immediately better. Not just better, I actually felt almost high. I felt this opening again. And yeah, so also when you see what comes out, I don't want to have that in my body. So I found enemas very helpful over the years. but I know there's a lot of information out there. People say this is enemas are unnatural. But then I'm asking myself, is it natural to keep that toxicity in your system? And enema has saved my life so many times just by getting this stuff out instead of having these all uncomfortable emotions and feeling dizzy and nauseous. So enemas help, they work right away. I also, like very early in my journey, when I was younger, I sometimes felt, I haven't gotten a cold or flu, I think in 20 years now, but at the beginning, I would sometimes get them. And when I felt the onset of something coming up, I would do an enema and it would go away. I was like, wow, there's no more symptoms of cold coming up. So yes, I found enemas extremely helpful. And I explored a little bit with colonic, but not too much. And the colonic is simply a glorified enema because it just goes deeper than the enema and it's just much more water. So yes, I also found colonics very helpful. So that is my personal journey. So I do believe they help, but you also don't want to overdo it. Ideally, we don't want to be dependent on a colonic or enema because that could happen. So you want to use them when it's really needed. And
Beautiful.
yeah, sometimes we just need to do something because it's not happening. Ideally, you want to be able to eliminate naturally, but sometimes when it doesn't happen and you feel just so terrible, we need something to help in that moment. Then enemas are lifesaver, and that's just that's why I recommend them. But I recommend being mindful when you use them. Don't overuse them.
And did you just do like a water enema or did you do lemon? Because
Yes.
sometimes people talk about that, just water. That's what I thought.
Yeah,
Distilled
water,
or
no, either water or water and lemon. I do
okay.
both. But
And
I don't recommend coffee enemas. Just it's very acidic. Coffee is a stimulant. Even you're not drinking it, still your body absorbs it. Actually, the colon absorbs very fast. Whatever you put in from behind will be absorbed by your body. So it gives you stimulation and it weakens the adrenals. So coffee is a no-no. I would not recommend that.
Okay. And did you use distilled or did you use spring water?
I use distilled water.
Okay, thank you. And then Rose has one last question. Have you explored pranic consciousness? Yes, take your time, take a sip. While you do that, I'll just tell you that we have someone on the call. I believe his name is Chris, his or her name, and they're also from Germany.
Oh, nice. Beautiful.
So, and then I'll come back to your question, Chris, because there's two more ahead of you. So yes. I'll let you talk about, have you experimented with pranic consciousness?
Well, I have a little bit experience with it. Like I had, I think it was 2 or 3 years ago, I was going through a phase where I would just do a lot of dry fasting and just being outdoors and just sitting with living from breath for several days. So I did 27 days, but not all in a row. It was over 9 months. I would do every month 3 days, and I would mainly be outdoors and just getting my energy from sunlight and breath and really working with different breathing techniques. And I got to places where I was so tuned in, major downloads. I would just keep writing and just information would just come out and just wisdom. So I really tuned into some amazing places. So I'm not an expert or I don't consider myself skilled, but I've dabbled into a little bit, how it feels like just living from breath. And yes, this is definitely a different state of consciousness that we cannot access with food. Alva, I can't hear you.
I'm all saying thank you so much. I'm sorry about that. I was trying to drown out the blower. All right. So our next question, thank you so much for that beautiful answer, is, do you have any suggestions if you have osteoporosis on the raw vegan lifestyle?
Well, it depends, raw vegan can be many things. It doesn't mean necessarily raw vegan, is benefiting your health. because a lot of people on the raw vegan path, they eat lots of nuts, which I don't recommend. They eat lots of oil, lots of salt. So it depends, what do you mean with raw vegan path? So when you have osteoporosis, I would recommend a diet high in fruits and some leafy greens, but I wouldn't do anything else. And it also depends, where you, so as I mentioned, it takes the transition diet. But raw vegan, it's really big. There's so many things. There's a lot of raw vegans, what they do, they mix a lot of different ingredients, which is actually very difficult to the body, to handle like 20 different ingredients in one meal. You have the nuts, you have the seeds, and the oils, and the veggies, and all that stuff comes together. And you want to realize whenever, for example, fruit is mixed with something, that causes fermentation, because fruit actually digests very fast. And if it's mixed with nuts, that creates, all kinds of fermentation. It builds alcohol, and it creates gas and digestion issues. So it all depends also the fruit combining. Like fruits is always separate, and ideally mono fruits. Also the vegetables, certain ones are starchy, they create problems. So I wouldn't recommend, for example, eating raw kale. That's what a lot of raw vegans do, and that's very starchy, and it causes a lot of problems, fermentation, and also digestion issues. And I did that for many years. I was eating raw kale, and every time I just never felt good. Or I go to certain raw vegan restaurants, have this amazing meal, raw pizza, raw lasagna, tasted incredible. And I come home and it feels so heavy, almost passing out. So it doesn't necessarily mean that raw vegan is good for you. It all depends where you are in your journey, and what are you facing, what challenges are you facing. But whenever you have something, serious, I don't want to call it serious, it's just a name that was given by the medical profession. But whenever you have some kind of challenge, I recommend moving towards a diet high in fruits and some leafy greens, but going to the transition phase also. So it's really difficult to answer because it depends, where the person comes
I've been
from.
on this path for a while, but I did ask her to clarify like what her weekly diet is. So when she puts that in the chat, I'll share that. She had a second question, Revital did. Why don't you recommend oil pulling for the teeth?
For the teeth? Well, for me in general, let's say like this, I used to, on this raw vegan path, do a lot of oils. And at some point I realized I always had inflammation in my ankles. And I was like, so I did a lot of experimenting on myself. And I came to the conclusion, it's the oils. So I stopped eating oils, and the inflammation went away, and then I don't have it anymore. It's inflamed ankles. So that, because oils do cause inflammation, even they are raw. And just like, if you do oils, the only oil I would probably recommend is coconut oil, because all the olive oil that's out there is not true olive oil. There's a little bit of olive oil, and then mix it up with canola oil or cheaper oil. So it's not a pure oil. And I used to eat a lot of olive oil. The moment I stopped, all inflammation went away. So that is just what I have discovered. So if you want to do oils, the only oil I probably recommend is coconut oil. And also make sure, it comes from a clean source, because there's, many bad oils out there, and that causes a lot of problems. It inflames your body and leads to clogging up, so things cannot flow properly.
Thank you.
And for me, just to put it in the mouth, it just didn't feel right. I did it for probably 10 years of my life. I was oil pulling fanatic. I told everyone you got to do oil pulling, to the point I just didn't feel good anymore putting this in my mouth. It just felt unnatural. But this is just where I am. It might take you some transition to go through that. I didn't want to. It's not that I'm, I'm saying this is what I'm doing, you have to do the same. No, this is what I learned exploring on myself over the last 25 years. At some point, things fell away. The more I did fasting, every time I did a fast, and I fasted now for 300 days over the past 6 years. And every time I did my fast, it's usually 5 days a month, I realized certain things are not resonating anymore. Certain things fell away. Certain things are not calling me anymore like they used to. You know, so it's an overtime process. It's not, you know, just quickly saying, okay, I stopped eating that. It was just not natural to me anymore to eat all these oils. But before, I loved it. It felt great to put all that olive oil on my salad. I was drenching it in oil. It felt good to me. And at some point, it's like, doesn't feel right anymore. But that took many, many days of water fasting to continue to purify my body, and then adding more fruits and adding more simple meals and more mono. So over time, my diet became just simpler. When I have a salad, it's usually 3 or 4 items, and that's it. Before it was 20, as much as possible, whatever I could find, you know, put it all in. It's like this big salad. So over time, my life just became simpler. And that's just my journey. You know, it's no, wherever you are is perfect if you call to that. But for me, it doesn't feel natural to put all that oil in my body and in my mouth.
Awesome. And so what would a simple salad look like? What normally right now your body resonates with and asks for?
So what I usually do, it's a lettuce, and I try to find the best quality lettuce, definitely organic. I've been eating organic for 30 years. And if I find it from a local farmer, even better. I know some biodynamic farmers. I get the best quality lettuce. And right now I'm actually growing it myself. It's almost ready. So I got some little starters at the market. They're already growing. So I get the best quality lettuce. And sometimes I use a little bit of cilantro or parsley, a little bit some herbs in there. And I do tomato, cucumber, and then I make a dressing with avocado and lemon. That's kind of a simple salad. Sometimes I use red peppers as well when I find them. Sweet peppers, not the spicy ones. And in the summer, I go to the market, see what I can find there. Sometimes they have Jerusalem artichokes I put in, or it depends what on the season. So in the summer, I try to find local. I buy local, organic, or biodynamic. In the winter, I do the best I can. And yeah, that's usually what I do. Keep it simple. Sometimes I make a zucchini pasta. I do zucchini, I spiralize them. And I make also dressing with avocado and a little tomato. So it's really simple. But often I don't eat any salad. I just eat fruits all day. And at night I have no meal. I mean, it's something my body also tells me more. Sometimes at night I don't eat. I just eat during the day, like 2 fruit meals, and at night I don't eat.
Thank you. That's beautiful to know. And I know that I mentioned that you offer a monthly shadow work workshop. I believe that's about an hour as well on Saturdays. Can you talk a little bit for anyone on the call that doesn't know what shadow work is?
Yes, absolutely. So first of all, it's not every month. This is something that I do maybe every 3 months. Yeah, I would say every 3 months. It's more like it's an introduction to shadow work. Because shadow work is not just a workshop you do and then you know shadow work. Shadow work is actually living it daily. And it really means being aware of your triggers, because the shadow is everything that we store in our subconscious. You know, every experience we had at some point in our life, especially in the first 7 years, these experiences are very crucial and they're stored in our subconscious. And even we might not be aware consciously, they're still there. And these are so-called wounds. So any pain you experienced as a child from mostly your parents or could be siblings in the environment you grew up with, all that these negative experiences, they create a wound. And that wound is there, whether you know it or aware of it, but it is there. And it is unconsciously, these wounds are running our life. So when someone triggers you, let's say someone says something, you get angry. It's actually not the person triggering you, nor the situation, some situation happens. It's actually your childhood wound is being activated and is showing up in the present moment. But whatever that person says has to do with some situation that happened early childhood that is still stored within you. So it's actually not the person who makes you angry. It's that wound that is just being, brought into the present moment. And you think it's the person, you blame the person, you blame the situation, but it's really something that we have to then go within and look, where does that anger come from? Why I'm getting so angry? Because this person said that. And you want to look, where in your life, where in your childhood did you experience similar emotions? Where did this show up before this, this intensity of anger when someone says something like that? So you want to look, it's mostly comes from your mother and your father. That's where most of our wounds come from. So we want to look, where in childhood did I get that angry? Where maybe my mother said something or my father said something that got me to a really heated place. And then, after you do the looking, you get to the source, where does that pain come from? And you bring it up. You look at that, but not from a place of judgment, but rather curiosity. Okay, what happened there? And really looking, and this is what created that. And then you want to meet, first of all, you want to hold that in love. As I said, curiosity and love, and really looking at the situation as a witness. And then practicing forgiveness for that person, whether it was your father or your mother that said something that caused that. And then practicing forgiveness, letting, sending love to them, and also, acknowledging that you're choosing to forgive themselves. Because forgiveness is not letting someone off the hook for what they did, even if it was something horrible. It is rather about freeing yourself from the attachment to the resentment, to this anger. And it could be something, someone said one day, you have a horrible voice as a child. And you took this on as a truth. I have a horrible voice, which refrains you from speaking or singing or any interaction because you feel you have this horrible voice. And then someone says something about your voice and you get so triggered. It's like all that stuff comes up. So the way to work on this, realizing, okay, it was just that person and it's not the truth. It was just that person saying that, and they just coming from their wound. They got triggered or they're hurt by their parents, and they, what happens when people are hurt, they're trying to project it onto others, make someone else feel bad so they feel better about themselves. So someone said maybe, you have a horrible voice. But as a child, we don't know. We trust the people we're around with. So we think it's the truth when in fact it's not. So it's about realizing, okay, that was just that person saying it from their wound, but I don't have a horrible voice. And then forgiving that person for saying that. And then continue to feeding yourself with a new belief that I have a beautiful voice. I love my voice. And then using that voice in every moment to speak. Even it's hard because there's still, it takes some time. It's not just telling yourself, okay, my voice is beautiful. This takes time. It can take years. But every time speaking out again, confirming my voice is beautiful. My voice matters. My voice needs to be heard in this world. And then continue to take the action steps. So number one is awareness. Where does the trigger come from? And getting to the source and looking and then holding that from a place of love and forgiveness, forgiving the person who caused that wound. And then, and then the next step would be then to take new action steps. Taking action steps in a place of the knowingness that this was just someone's story, someone's opinion that was put onto you, and as a child you took it on. So this has, different steps, but this is an ongoing process. It's not a course you take. It's simply being aware and then taking the action steps over and over again, creating a new belief, creating a new pattern, and doing this on a consistent basis and being very aware of those triggers because they keep coming up. But next time the same trigger comes up, someone says something about your voice, you're like, okay, here's the old pattern. Just awareness, the old pattern kicking in. My wound is being triggered, but I'm not reacting to my wound. I'm choosing from my heart, and I'm declaring I have a beautiful voice, and I keep speaking and speaking and speaking. And over time, the wound gets less and less and less, and at some point, it's not there anymore. That's how we heal our childhood wound, through awareness and forgiveness, and then taking new action steps.
Beautiful, beautiful. Yeah, thank you. I'm sorry that I said that was monthly when it's quarterly. And it really does, just even attending the quarterly workshops, I found them to be hugely transformative. It now is just the way I live my life. I catch myself when I'm, feeling wounded or whatever. And then I'm like, oh, wait, where did you come from? And I'm not upset with myself about it anymore. I can just lean into it. And I actually have been calling them activations instead of triggers. Like initially it feels like a trigger, but what I feel like energetically is that it activates something in me. And if I'm available to it, right, I get to go find the gift. And like you said, turn that around. So it feels like an alchemical process happening in my physical, mental, and emotional body. So Chris from Germany asked, if you remember, could you share with us, and if you have to tell us later, you can just tell me and I'll put it share it with the group. But if you could share with us the name of that first raw food book that you found to be hugely transformative. And their second question is, what was your greatest healing challenge? Let me see if I can find the exact verbiage. Oh yeah. What was your hardest healing crisis during, on your healing journey to date?
Okay, so the book is called Fit for Life. It's a book about raw food and food combining. Very important. And that book has stuck with me. And then over time, I was reading other books, such as Arnold Ehret's books. They're also hugely transformative. But that was my first, step into learning. Certain foods you don't want to combine at all. It creates a problem.
That book is so powerful. It's the first place I ever read the body is self-cleansing, self-healing, and self-maintaining. I had zero idea of that until I want to say this year is when I found that book.
Yeah, and no one tells us this in school, and this should be mandatory in any school. You need to know the body is self-healing. But we know who runs the schools and what their agenda is, so they have no interest in empowering us. So we need to create groups like this so we can actually empower each other. And it's like we are so powerful, and most people are playing so small. And we can, you can be the creator of our magnificent dream reality. But we've been told we need this, we need that, we depend on this and that, and people are so misled, and living in fear. And in fact, they have all the power. Yes, so regarding my greatest healing challenge was actually the emotional world. I found the physical, like as I mentioned, I was always colds and bronchitis. That went away, I would say, within a few years. All that was gone. But one aspect which I found difficult was the digestion. Digestion was one of the things it took me probably 20 years, I would say, to really understand digestion. Because even as I was eating mostly raw food for now many years, I still had often digestion problems. Sometimes there were days I couldn't go to the bathroom. And first of all, I became aware there's a huge emotional component to it. It mostly happened to me that I felt I was in stress. There were things that occupied my mind. So a lot has to do with digestion. It's the emotional part. And it's really about learning to let go. And the more we actually hold on this emotional stuff or stress or situations we're facing, that will affect digestion no matter how clean you eat also. So this is a huge component, the emotional part of digestion. And really when I worked on my emotional trauma, and especially the shadow work and the childhood wounds, that actually improved digestion tremendously. So the digestion, and this is something most women actually face more than men. A lot of women have constipation, and a big part is holding on to things. So when you have constipation, what are you holding? It has to do with mainly also wrong food combining is one big part, and holding on to things. So when you have digestion issues, about learning to look, what do I need to let go of? What is really obstructing me? And then keep the diet as clean, as simple as possible. That really helped me transform digestion, but it took me really 20 years to get to this point. Because I was I was physically in a great state, 25 years, I think, not having colds or any physical illness. I still had a lot of emotional trauma and childhood trauma that it took me years to unlayer. And I mentioned before, it's layer and layer. It's not possible to go to all of it right at once because you're actually not ready to take on such a huge load. It takes years. But the emotional part, that was quite something in terms of work. So I actually found it myself much more challenging than dealing with physical symptoms.
Thank you so much for that. And then Kelly Ann, can you take yourself off mute, and I'll mute myself so you can ask your question live for us, please?
Hello. Thank you so much, Alva and Eric, for hosting this. This is amazing. Lovely to meet you, Sabina. I love that you mentioned so much of what brought you through the last 30 years of your healing journey. It's incredible to understand the origins of where people are coming from and how that's informing what they're doing now. So thank you for sharing that. I love that you mentioned Fit for Life and Arnold Ehret's Mucusless Diet, because those are two phenomenal books that I found on my journey that have really helped piece together so much of the confusion that's kind of put out there, which you alluded to, everything that we're told that's a little confusing when we're trying to find our path and our way, whether it's foods and the physical, or it's the spiritual or the energetic realm. So, and then lastly, what you just said about women and holding on to things, that inner child wounding, the trauma and the stress, and that can manifest as constipation and stress in our hearts, especially. It's something that I feel like isn't talked about enough. So thank you for bringing such awareness to that. I didn't know if you could speak more to the process of transmuting pain into joy, your personal experience with that, as well as the roles of peace and presence for anchoring in kind of these greater levels of consciousness. Because one of the things I found is we can have these amazing, blissful moments of purity and clarity, but we need to bring that kind of heaven to earth. And that's where, as a human, it can feel a little volatile. So I don't know if you could speak more to that.
Okay, thank you so much, Kelly Ann, I think it's the name, for your beautiful words and the acknowledgement. And yeah, so this, the journey transmuting pain to joy, well, it's also something that takes time, and it's an ongoing journey, because we are here to evolve, really. And so life continues to give us challenges. It's not, once you transmuted a lot of pain, that life will just become all smooth and easy. We will continue to face challenges, because our soul is here to evolve and to grow and to expand. But the difference is, once you do this deep inner work, you will approach the pain differently. So it's not that the pain just takes over. And that's what happened to most people. And the pain is so intense, it's just taking them and spiraling down, and then they wallow in the pain and they don't see a way out of it. But once you have the tools, when the pain comes, you can actually hold it differently. And I still have pain in life. I still have many challenging situations, but I don't get sucked into them. I don't go anymore into panic mode. Say, oh my God, it's happening. Oh, which I used to do. Sometimes I would sit in this pain for days, weeks, and this doesn't happen anymore. I see it for what it is, and then I just hold it. Okay, there's this, and see it. It's an intense energy. Everything is energy in the end. So all pain and challenges that come up is simply intense energy. And that's where the training ground comes in. That's the true test. Can you be with this intense energy when everything around you is chaos, when trauma is happening, when people are going nuts around you and the world is going crazy? Can you be with this, or are you getting sucked into? Or can you be with it and hold it and see it for what it is? It's just energy coming at you. And then the true test is, how can you move through that? How can you learn to be still grounded and peaceful and move through it with ease and grace? And that takes skills. It's not something we are actually taught to do. So it took me also many years to learn to be with the pain. And this is like, it's not easy work to do. And it takes time to get to this place. But we really want to see it's all energy coming at you that is here actually for your growth, that is here for you to expand. Because when you learn to cope with intense energies, something happens. You actually become like your container enlarges, your energetic container becomes bigger, your aura becomes bigger because you can hold more. When you can hold more, you can actually also hold more light. And then you can give more light. You can actually radiate out more light. You can support others more. So this is really for your, anything intense is really for your expansion. And I had many intense experiences in my life, so many, but each time I look back and said, wow, this was actually a blessing in disguise because I have grown so much from that. I've become so much stronger. I've become a completely different person. And looking back at my life, even 5 years ago, I don't recognize that person anymore. In 20 years, I don't recognize that person either. But it's about learning to be with all of it, learning to be with life and meet life exactly where it is. You meet it, okay, with all the shit, all the stuff coming. Can you be with it instead of, oh my God, you can hide, go away, or like run away? That's not the choice. We want to learn to be with it all. And that's where the medicine really comes in. Then life opens up for you. And that's really what I can share about that.
Thank you. That's beautiful. Thank you.
Was that everything you needed, Kellyanne?
Yeah, that was beautiful. And you spoke to things that I had kind of written out as well, but how so often we are these containers, we are these vessels to help transmute things. I think a lot about that as far as the intuitive alchemy of things. How do we transmute things, but in a way that is not according to kind of how we were taught, but through love and grace and being in receptivity. And through that process, we do expand and we can handle more. So one of the things I found is in this journey, it doesn't necessarily get easier, but it can get simpler. And if we just embrace that, like we level up as things can get more intense, but we don't feel that intensity. We don't feel the chaos as much as we embody that peace and presence and grace. So that was beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you both. That was beautiful. It makes me think of, I have this friend, she teaches a program called Iive. And when stuff that, what you were just talking about, painful stuff comes up, she gets excited. She's like, oh, let me just dive into this. And I used to think, and I've known this woman like 20 plus years. I used to think, is she nuts? And now I find myself, Sabina, I think a cross between working with both of you, like, I'm not gonna lie and say I feel excited at first, but then I get really excited because I realize that on the other side of that is I'm letting go of some energy that no longer serves me. And then that, like you said about when you talked about stillness and silence, that makes space for energy, for more aliveness, for more joy, for more peace, for more freedom. So I don't find myself as afraid of them. And there's still some things, that I'll wobble, kind of thing, but the wobbling doesn't last as long either. Or if I decide to, I don't want to say wallow into it, but like really lean into it, like you said, be with it, right? Allow myself to feel the grief or the sadness or the anger. I'm not afraid because I know the way out as well. Or should I say, I know the way in, through and out. So yeah. So as we wrap up, thank you so much. You've given us so many, like you said, golden nuggets of wisdom. And again, we just also appreciate your transparency, your high vibration, your love, and your hard work, you know, because I love, you really talk about the grit of the journey, and yet the grit is also the grace, and it's also just like a diamond, right? In that pressure, it's really this beautiful alchemy. You have a couple of programs, if I remember. There's one-on-one coaching that you're available for. Then what's your 3-month program called, where someone works with you? Can you talk about that a little bit, what you have to offer? Because I just want them to know ways that they can reach out and ways that they can connect to experience not only your magic, but unleashing our own.
Yes, so I have a 3-month, it's a mentorship mastery where I work with you one-on-one. That means I meet you exactly where you are, and then I take you to where you want to go. Or let's say I guide you so you can go to where you want to go. And we address all areas: physical, emotional, mental, spiritual. And part of it is, you know, doing regular cleansing, getting yourself to a very clean and pure diet as possible. And all depends where you are, but you're definitely going to have some breakthroughs in terms of physical healing. And then part of it is the shadow work. We're going to look at all, you know, your childhood wounds. What is blocking you? What is holding you back from living the true life that you're here to live? And also we do inner child healing, the many other modalities. So that's another aspect, and looking at all these components. And then also I work with you on soul purpose, which means we all came here to bring forth our gift, and we all have a unique gift that you came here. But most people are so disconnected. They go to a job, they make money so they can pay their bills, and one day they retire, but they're not fully in their purpose. And the purpose is not so much what you do, but it is who you are that comes through in what you do. So a big part is, if you want to live authentic, you have to live your purpose. Yeah. Otherwise, you're always going to be a victim. So all these pieces are actually important. It's the nutrition, it's doing regular cleansing. That is really foundational for, you know, having a pure system that you can actually receive and really be who you are. So I'm addressing all these different aspects, and this really includes, you have regular calls, one-on-one calls, and then I also give you homework that is specific, what I'm discovering in our conversations, that is really tuned into your unique quality. And then I will follow up with you. So this is like someone who really wants transformation in 3 months. And I had some people get some amazing, massive results and breakthroughs. So this is someone who's really dedicated to do the work. And that requires, it's not just the calls with me, it requires daily that you focus on your goals and focusing on your vision and learning to let go of what is in the way. So this is like a hand-holding program where I'm just with you. And you have also access to me. Whenever there's a breakdown, you can reach out to me, and I will guide you to get out of that breakdown as fast as possible. So you have access to me, you have my phone number, you can text me, and you know, it's like full on support. So that's one option. Yeah, and I mentioned the other one is I offer a cleanse. If you want to join just for juicing or water fasting, you can join monthly on the regular monthly cleanse. But if you want to have real transformation, because there's this thing, we all have blind spots, and you cannot see your own blind spots. That actually they only come up by being asked certain questions. So this is like a program where we go deep and reveal your blind spots, and then they can be over time transmuted. And that's why you'll be stepping more into your power and really embody who you are.
Beautiful. Thank you. So Sabina can be found on Facebook and Instagram. It's Sabina Kurz on Facebook. And is it Sabina Kurz on Instagram, or what's your Instagram?
Instagram is Radiant Authentic Living.
Okay, Radiant Authentic Living. And then she also has a Facebook group called The Art of Detoxification and Empowered Living, right?
The Art of Detox.
The Art of Detox. Oh my gosh.
Empowered Living.
Okay, but I will put all of that in the chat in both groups. We just so want to thank you. This has been so fun. I just love hearing about your journey. I can never hear too much, and I always get a nugget. And if you saw me looking away, you know me, I take lots of notes. So I was taking lots of notes while you talk. So thank you, everyone. If you want to take yourselves off mute, thank you, Eric, for making this wonderful space and building this beautiful international community on WhatsApp and on YouTube. Sabina, also, I'll send you the YouTube video once Eric puts it up. And if at any point you ever want to join our community, you don't have to necessarily join WhatsApp, but we fast every Friday, as Eric said at the top of the call, from all over the world. Everybody does a little something different. So just, yeah, thank you for all that you do in the world. Thank you for sharing your light and your love and your magic with us and giving us really practical, I mean, in a short amount of time, you gave us all really practical tips that if we take them away and implement them, our lives will improve for the better, as well as that'll ripple out across the globe. So happy Friday, everyone. Have a beautiful weekend.
Thank you, everyone. Lots of love to all of you, wherever you are.
Same to you, Sabina. Thank you so much. Thank you, Alva. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.